All right. Everything looks right. Welcome on in, everybody. Kind of an important day for the class. So I mentioned before that once we come back from Thanksgiving break, everything's just going to fly by. It's going to happen super fast, and it is. So you're almost there. Hang on. Finish strong. Strong finish. End up passing the class and then not have to take it anymore. That's the goal for many of you. Some of you want, to get an A or whatever, but the main thing is getting a passing grade so you don't end up taking statistics again. So a couple things I want to point out here. There is a project part of the discussion due today. So estimating a parameter due November 30th, okay? That's in the chapter about confidence intervals, right? So do some confidence intervals for your data. That's really all you have to do. Go into StatCrunch, have it calculate some confidence intervals, post them in here, and then you'll get your points. You're all ready to go. And then you can sort of work on putting your project together with that information. So make sure you don't miss that. No one has posted yet. So I don't want people to forget because it needs to get turned in today, right? It's due today. So make sure you're aware of that and you get that done and you're prepared for that to be turned in. The other thing, so it's actually what we're dedicating today's lesson to, is there's an important quiz that I have to give you. So it's down here at the bottom, and I'm actually going to make it go live right now. So it's published. So you should be able to see it when you go in there, and it counts for your grade, okay? So, in fact, I should probably change the due date. This needs to be due a little sooner than that. Today is, what, the 30th? This needs to be due, like, more like Sunday. And this shouldn't be hard. In fact, I highly recommend you just take it today is really when you should take it. Yeah. Okay. So here's the deal with the quiz. What's going on? So the reason I'm giving you this quiz is because I have to. Oops. No. Don't look at that. That was people's grades. How did that come up? Hold on. Hold on one second. I will be right back. I got to switch tabs without exposing grades. Hold on. I'm back. Somehow I switched the wrong tab over on the left, and then it started showing people's grades, so I had to get out of there since obviously I don't want to expose people's grades to stuff. So next year, the school is due for an accreditation review. Accreditation is really important because it sort of gives legitimacy to the college. So, you want the school to be accredited because if you took classes at a college that isn't accredited, then it's much less likely that other colleges and universities will accept these classes as transfer. So accreditation is kind of a big deal at the college. One of the things that we have to do for the accreditors when they come is we have to have given certain quizzes in our classes and show them the rates, the pass rates for those quizzes. That's one of the things they look over. And so the math department put together a stats quiz that everyone who's teaching a stats class has to give their stats classes, and those are the numbers we're going to report to accreditors. So you have two things why this quiz is important to you. One, it's going to count for points towards your project. Okay? It's one of the easier ways to get points. The discussions have been pretty easy points. This quiz, if you know at all what you're doing in this class, should be pretty easy points. The project itself, graded a little bit harder. So getting some quiz points here that go towards the project is helpful to you. Okay? So it's helpful because it's helping your grade in the class. The other thing is this is data that's going to be used for accreditation, and you want the school that you're taking classes at to be accredited because if it isn't, then you may end up taking statistics again wherever you transfer to, because they're like, oh, didn't Ventura College get in trouble with their accreditation? We're not taking their stats class anymore. And then you have to take it again at university. You don't want to take it again. We don't want you to take it again. So it's best if everyone just passes this quiz. So you need to take the quiz. Today's lesson is basically going to be reminding you the things you need to know in order to take that quiz. It would be great if you could finish that quiz today, because although I've given you a few more days to take it, you might start to forget stuff and then make a mistake. Okay. I know it just says 3 points on here. The points that count towards your project are going to be greater than that. It will be more than 3 points. I think the projects were something like 200 points. So 3 points would be, 1%, 1.5% of the grade. It's bigger than that. It's graded out of 3. The way it works is I don't use the grade that Canvas calculates for you because it doesn't follow all the rules of the class. That's one thing about Canvas is its grading system is a little bit limited. So what I do is I take the grade sheet, I pull it down into, depending on what computer I'm using, either Excel or Google Sheets that's like Excel. I pull it in there and then calculate your grades. So I can just give a different weight to this quiz. So it's actually going to be worth more like 30 or 40 points out of the 200 points on your project. Okay, so take it seriously. If you do bad, it's going to hurt you. If you do well, and you should be able to do well. It's not that hard of a quiz, but if you haven't done anything all semester, you're probably not going to pass the quiz, right? I mean, if you're just sort of don't know anything about what's going on, but if you've been sticking with it, probably going to be okay, especially since I'm going to review some of the main ideas you need to keep in mind when you take the quiz. That's what we're doing today. Okay, so very, very important that you take this. It should be available to everyone now. Once I'm done talking about it today, please take it soon. Take it today if you can, maybe tomorrow. That way everything's fresh in your mind and you can do well in it. So in a little bit, I'm going to come back and start talking about the stuff you need to know for the quiz so that you can do well on that. And then, it's kind of a pattern. I'm putting it on all of you to take this quiz, and then I have to go report my results. So then, I'm being told to report these results to the school, and then the school is going to report these results to accreditation. So it's kind of just this line of responsibility. And the step one is you taking the quiz. I report the results. It moves up the ladder, and then accreditation looks at it eventually. So that's where we're going to go. With that in mind, I want to go over a couple things for the semester so that you're familiar with things. Some of this stuff I said at the beginning of the semester, but getting to the end, I start getting a million emails asking me these very questions. So that tells me I need to go over it again, kind of remind everyone how we're going to finish things off here. So if you're on the Ventura College webpage, up at the top, it says Academic Calendar, right? So anywhere you're on the Ventura College webpage, you can easily get to the Academic Calendar by just clicking this link at the top. So you click that. 2 things on this page every student should be aware of: final exam schedule and the instructional calendar, right? When we're in the classroom, I recommend my students actually print these out. And you know what? Those students that print them out and they put them in like the sleeve of the binder, like the outside, so when you pick up your binder, you can see this. Those students usually know what's going on because they see the calendar like once a day. And then those aren't the students who end up coming on the wrong day, right? I have students who show up on a holiday and then they're like, oh, I came on Monday and the school was empty. Yeah, because it's like Memorial Day or, whatever it happens to be for that day. You have the instructional calendar, you know what's going on. And then also the final exam schedule, you know what's going on. So let's take a look at those 2 things. First of all, the instructional calendar. All right, students get very confused about how things work here at the end, as things are kind of, we only have a couple more weeks here because school officially ends on the 15th. That's just over 2 weeks. Today's the 30th. So what you need to realize, we have 3 more regular class meetings, including today, the 30th, the 2nd, and the 7th, because this 9th, that Thursday the 9th, that's the start of finals week, okay? I always have a number of students who try to come to class during finals week. During finals week, finals only happen at the scheduled final exam time. We'll go over that in just a minute when I show you the final exam schedule, Okay, but just realize up until the 8th, like I have office hours and everything normal up till the 8th. And then after the 8th, the schedule just goes out the window. And it's all based on the final exam schedule for this purple part. Okay, so we'll be normal for today, Thursday, and Tuesday. I will have my normal office hours on Wednesday. And then, there won't be like office hours after that. Although you can, if you need to get a hold of me, I can try to schedule a time or something with you, and we can talk if you need it. But it's not a guarantee that we'll be able to set something up because, I have other classes and finals, and I'm trying to submit grades. We're supposed to submit grades like as fast as we can. So, there's a lot of pressure on us to get that done. So we have 3 more class meetings. We'll talk about the quiz today and kind of how the rest of, the class is going to go. Probably talk about the projects on Tuesday or on Thursday, and then maybe on Tuesday as well, and any questions that people have, and they can come ask me about those questions, okay? So be aware, a lot of times people think, oh, well, like they don't really read, and they think that this purple week is like something else. And then, I always have students that like they book a cruise or something that starts on the 9th, and they're like, well, I'm not going to be here. Like there have been 2 times in 8 years of me working here where we gave an exemption for people to take the final at a different time, and both people were giving birth during the final. So, I think most people would agree, yes, if a woman is in the hospital giving birth, we can't also expect her to be in the classroom taking a final exam at that same time. Okay, so we can't really do any kind of exemptions with that kind of stuff. And as you'll see, the school has a pretty strict policy about the finals. So you got to take that due date seriously, right? When I show it to you in a little bit, and I'll explain it. But no, finals week still exists for your classes, and you need to be aware of what's going on with that, okay? There's always confusion in this week. There's always confused students. So I'm just trying to sort of re-educate you on how finals weeks work, so that you're not one of the confused students wondering, well, I'm trying to get into Zoom. Why is it, why is his office hours not live? Like if it's here on the 9th. Well, in the finals week, I might have an actual class during what used to be office hours, right? Office hours don't work the same in finals week. Okay, so here's where we're at with that. So with that said, let's look at the final exam schedule. So this is the final exam schedule for the whole school, not just my class. I didn't write this. This is the school final exam schedule. Okay, and we are what? We are a Tuesday, Thursday at 10 a.m. So that's us right here. So students get confused on how to read this. If you're taking a statistics class or any math class at the college, you should understand how this thing works. It's pretty basic. The columns are days and the rows are times. So right here, Tuesday, I'm sorry, we're not Tuesday, Thursday at 10. We're Tuesday, Thursday at 8. I'm already jumping ahead to my later class. We're Tuesday, Thursday at 8 a.m. We're this class right here, right? Hopefully everyone caught that. Feel free to point that out when I say we're a 10 a.m. class and we're an 8 a.m. class. Feel free to politely let me know. We are an 8 a.m. class, Tuesday, Thursday. So that means that your final exam is on the 14th between 8 and 10. Now, when I say final exam, the school has, in the paperwork, if you look, it doesn't have to be a test, like a traditional math test, but I have to do something meaningful, like like you have teachers, I know you hear about this every year where students are like, oh, in my other class, we're just having a pizza party. That's actually against the contract. We can get in trouble for that. We are supposed to have a meaningful class meeting of some type of thing happens during this time. So for you won't be taking a statistics exam. You will be turning in your statistics projects, okay? So, my administrators are fine with me saying, well, they didn't take a paper and pencil exam. They turned in their projects they've been working on all semester. And in fact, a lot of people actually think the project-based stuff is better than an exam. So that's perfectly acceptable. But if I'm going to say that your project is the exam, that means you cannot turn it in after 10 a.m. Okay, it cannot be turned in after 10 a.m. That's the cutoff. And I mean literally, 10 a.m. and 1 second is late, and it won't be counted, right? The thing is set. It should be already set. Let's double check. I think I have it set. Let's just double check that it's set for, yep, December 14th at 10 a.m. That's what the thing says here. December 14th at 10 a.m. That's the cutoff. If it's not in by then, it's not getting graded, okay? Because, as you can see, the school has a pretty strict policy. Again, this is not me. This is the school policy. Students requesting early or late exams may obtain a petition from the instructor or division office. You would go to the division office and get it. Approved petitions are to be filed in the office of the division dean prior to the exam date. No exceptions. That's a school policy. It's not like I can be like, okay, I'm going to be really nice and let you slide on this one, because then I have to sit down and explain to my dean why I'm breaking the policies of the college, right? And that's not really good. So I have to follow this. Now, like I say, in the past, people come to me and say, oh, I booked my Disney cruise. I'm going to be out of town for the final. You're going to go to the dean and say, yeah, you should let me take it early because I booked a Disney cruise. That doesn't really fly. Like I say, the two times that I and the dean have agreed to approve petitions, it was because people were in the hospital giving birth. Okay, so if you're giving birth in the hospital and you have paperwork to show that's true, we'll give you an exemption, or some similar type medical reason. But if it's just because your alarm didn't go off, or your power went out at the last minute, or you were, there's an email I've gotten so many times this semester. I was trying to get it in at the last minute, and then I didn't get it done in time because my page was loading too slow. Don't do it at the last minute. You don't risk your entire semester on you being able to do something in the last 5 minutes that it's due. Just don't do it. Right? You want to know one of the few things you can do that's actually easy to do and will save you a ton of screw-ups in school? Don't do stuff at the last minute. Just do it early. Okay. What I highly recommend, turn it in the previous day. If you, here's a thing that a lot of students do. Whenever there's a due date, they pretend the due date is 1 day earlier. And then they try to get it in that day earlier. And then what happens is, if there's a big problem like a power outage or some kind of thing went terribly wrong and you didn't get it in, well, then you still actually have at least part of the next day to get it in. But if you're waiting till literally the last possible second to do it and then something goes wrong, then I guess you're taking stats over, right? So don't wait till that last minute. And as I have mentioned before, anyone who turns it in, if you turn it in before this purple part, you'll get a bonus to your grade and you'll get an automatic extra 10% on your grade. So get it turned in by the 8th and you will get a little bonus to your project. So I can start watching the videos early, get the grades prepared, get everything ready to turn in. You'll get an extra 10%. Now here's what I'm going to say. Don't turn in a bad project early to get the 10%, because if your project earns a 40% and I give it an extra 10%, you're still at a 50% on your project, right? You're still going to take the class over. So don't turn in a bad project early. But if you're someone who's done a pretty good job, again, you're not waiting till the last minute. You're getting things done. You're moving along, and you're like, yeah, I'm ready to turn this thing in, and it's the 8th or sooner. You can turn that thing in, and when I grade it, it tells me the date and time you turned it in. I'll look at it and go, oh, extra 10% here for turning it in early. Okay, but again, don't chase that 10% if your project is terrible, because terrible plus 10% is still really terrible, actually. So, so just think that out if you're trying to do that. But that will be part of the grading consideration, is if you turn it in before the purple part, before finals weeks starts, right, so that I can start preparing and getting as many grades ready as I can, you get an extra 10% on your project. But make it a quality project anyways. So where was I? Where am I here? Nope, can't find where I was. That's, December 14th at 10 a.m. That's when it's due. And as it says here, I can't break that rule even if I wanted to. It's not my rule. It's VC policy. And I'm not about to go up and try to battle the deans and the the vice presidents and the president because you waited till the last minute to turn it in, right? So don't wait till the last minute to turn it in. It's that simple, right? At least be trying to get it in. Like I say, the day before would be great, but at the very least, be trying to get it in by like 8 a.m. or something so that you're not messing up. I have had students before turn in weird file formats that are unreadable. If I cannot read your file, then I cannot grade your file, right? Make sure that I can read it. That's another thing about turning it in early is if I try to read if it's a few days early and I'm watching videos and your file doesn't work, I can send you an email and say, hey, your file doesn't work. Can you get me a working file, and I'll see if I can grade it. And if you get back to me in time, I'll grade it for you. But if you turn it in at the last minute, if it's 9:59 on Wednesday and you turn it in and I try to open it and it's not openable, right? Because it's some weird file format, and I have VLC. I can open most file formats, but there's weird ones that I sometimes can't open. You're out of luck. Right? It's like, oh, okay, I can't view your assignment, so you can't turn it in. I recommend that you make it a YouTube link. You might be embarrassed. Oh, I don't want everyone to see this thing. Your statistics video is not going to go viral. No one's going to see it, right? But just post it on your YouTube or make another YouTube account or something. Send me the link. Make sure that I can read it or that view it, right? When you make a video on YouTube, there's a setting on almost every one of these sites. There's a setting that it's either private or viewable by link or public to everyone. Make sure you pick the setting where I can view your video. If I can't view your video, then I can't grade it, right? So I've had people I've had many variations of people turning in their videos. YouTube, Vimeo. Some people have Vimeo accounts. Some people just send me a movie format directly. That's fine. Make sure it's one that I can read. Okay, don't make it some proprietary weird thing where I have to have a specific player or I have to be on a specific website to view it. Just send me a file that is like a typical movie file that I can watch with the VLC player and go from there. Okay, so make sure it's readable. Make sure that I can read it. And then I'll talk more about the project on Tuesday and Thursday and Tuesday as we talk about that. But I want everyone to know how things are moving forward because I know there's going to be students who are trying to turn stuff in late, and it's probably not going to go well, right? Or isn't going to go well. So make sure you get all that taken care of. Okay? If there's any questions about anything I just went over, now's the time to ask. Okay, so with that said, you see when your homework's due. We've got all that. Also, this is for your other classes as well. So if you have other classes, you can just look up and go, wait, when's my final? That's why they post this, so you can figure out when all your final exams are, right? And notice how these windows are not necessarily the same time that your classes take place. Sometimes they're shifted, right? I took a music class at the college a few years ago, and the final started 45 minutes before class usually started. So you kind of had to, if you messed up, then you were 45 minutes late to the final, which isn't good. So, okay. So keep all that in mind. Okay, back to let's see, where are we? Right. Okay, so things you need to know for this quiz, this important quiz that I need you all to take and do well on. And that you need to take and do well on, right? It's these are some of the easier points to fight for. But there's a couple of basic questions about, so I'm not necessarily just teaching the problems on the quiz. I'm going back and sort of reviewing these topics a little bit so you understand how to do them. But remember, with measures of central tendency or measures of center, we have numerous different ways of measuring the center, but we have two big ones. We have the mean and we have the median. And the great news is StatCrunch will calculate them both for you, right? You've got a set of data. You come in here, you say, hey, why don't you summarize these stats for me? You pick the one you want, you hit compute, you got your mean, you got your median. That's great. We're good to go, right? So you can either enter these, like on the homework where it'll populate this column for you. You can write it in there by hand. whatever it is that you need to do to go through and calculate the mean and the median for those. You've done a lot of this in the homework, on the lessons and the assessments along the way, right? So you've got your mean and median. And hopefully you remember the difference between those because we use them in different circumstances, right? A lot of times people just sort of always want to know about the, like, you know, people who don't know statistics always ask about the average. Well, in statistics, we don't use average. It's kind of a sloppy term that can lead to confusion because, sorry, I'm getting over a cold. My throat's not great. You know, the average is a confusing term. So we talk about the mean. The mean is where you add up all the data values and divide by the number of data values. The median is literally where we pick the value in the middle or the two values in the middle, and then we take the mean of those two values. So they're both very useful tools. They both can be helpful. Sometimes the mean and median are close to each other. Like in this case, the median is 5 and the mean is 5.28. But remember, there were instances, like I gave an example that comes up a lot in real estate, where you have a neighborhood where some homes are significantly higher priced than the other homes. And if you took the mean, you would end up with a price that is in the middle. And probably people showing up to view homes in that price range will be disappointed because all the homes they run across are either too cheap or too expensive for what they want to buy. So when it comes to real estate, the mean is not a good measure. You'll almost always hear people when they talk about real estate, they talk about median, right? The median. You'll hear this too when they talk about like in the federal government when they're calculating, you know, poverty levels and stuff like that. A lot of times you hear people use the median earner, the median person in this range. So both the mean and the median are very important tools, but we use them at different times, okay? The main weakness of the mean is kind of also its strength. It comes from the fact that the mean uses every single data value in the calculation, like directly the data value. The median, you could say, well, isn't the median at least indirectly based on every term? Sort of, but all you're really doing is like ordering the terms and then counting them. That's not really like using them in a formula or a calculation. In the median, you're only using that value in the middle, or if it's an even number of terms, the two values in the middle. The mean uses every single term in the calculation. So you could say, well, that sounds like it's better that we're using every single data point in the calculation. That is a good thing sometimes, but it also can be a bad thing. And that if you have an outlier or two in your data, one outlier can completely throw the mean off of your data. Okay, it can pull that mean so far that it doesn't really represent the bulk of your data, and it also doesn't really represent the outlier. It's kind of in this middle region, like the example that I gave earlier in the semester with real estate. You got a number of homes that are between $500,000 and $600,000. You have a home down the street that's worth $1.2 million. Well, if you find the mean, you might get $800,000. Well, if someone says, I want to go to that neighborhood where the mean is $800,000, that's my price range, they're going to get there and find a ton of homes for $500,000 to $600,000 and one home for $1.2 million. That doesn't do them any good. So using the mean was a poor choice because that outlier of the really expensive home pulled that mean far enough one direction that it was now misrepresentative. It was misrepresenting the data. Right? So when you have an outlier or two in your data, you frequently want to go with the median because the median doesn't use every data value in those calculations, which means it's not going to be using the outliers in its calculations, which means the outliers are not going to affect the median as much. Okay? So that's one way in which you decide. So keep that in mind when you're answering questions about the mean and median and, well, which one's the right one to use here? And I don't think it says which one's the right one, but keep that in mind about when one of these tools is better than the other tool to use, right? A lot of times it comes down to an argument about outliers skewing stuff one direction. Because if you don't have outliers in your data, your mean and your median usually line up fairly close to each other. Like this is pretty close. 5 for my median, 5.2, 8 for my mean. Those are pretty close together. If we had a data set and I got 5 for the median and 14 for the mean, you'd go, there must be an outlier in there because the mean is so far away from the median that it's screwing everything up, right? So just keep that in mind. When there's room between the mean and median, it's probably an outlier messing things up. In that case, the mean is probably not the tool that you want to use. It probably is the median is probably what you want to go with. And you want to be able to explain why. If someone says, why did you choose the median here? Like if you had to give an example, an explanation of why did you use the median and not the mean, you should be able to do that, basically using the arguments that I just gave. It's also a good argument to use in your project. Use the same type of stuff in your project. When you're giving means and medians, tell me which ones you think are important in that particular situation. Okay, so that's part of it, is remembering your means and medians, which seems easy, and calculating them is, at this point, I hope you're all comfortable with using StatCrunch inside yours. From doing your homework, but then make sure you can give that explanation about when you would use the mean and when you would use the median, okay? All right. The next thing you're going to have to remember to do, and also will play a large role in your project, is regression and correlation. So I just made up an example here. This was just totally made up. But I want to walk you through how to do this because you have to do it on the project. So watch to what I'm doing, and I'll tell you how the project works. And if basically also it's going to be on the quiz, so you have to be able to get it right on the quiz. You do those two things, those are a lot of points, because when I see students do regression right, it tells me, okay, this student knows what they're doing, right? So just sort of watch this. It doesn't mean everything else can be bad. But like when I see regression done right and everything else is pretty good, I go, okay, this student really understands what's going on. So I have two columns here of data. I just made this data up. So let's just say these are employees that work somewhere, and then they have the number of duties and then their pay rank. So some places have a pay rank where you have like a ranking. Like there's a ranking in the military, I think, for pay grade. I forget what it is, but I remember when I was young and considering going into the Navy's nuclear program, they were, I remember them sitting down and going, okay, you're going to start at this rank of pay or whatever, and it go through that. I didn't end up going with the Navy, but so that was that's an example of a place where you'd have a pay rank. Other places, sometimes private institutions, have a pay rank, and it can be based on a number of things. It can be based on what you're doing. It can be like what your job is. It can be based on how long you've been with the company. It can be based on reviews that you've had during that time you've been with the company. In reality, it's probably a combination of all those things, right? So here we have employees at a workplace. We've listed the number of duties that they have. So each row is an individual. Here's the number of duties these people have, and then here is their corresponding pay rank. So it doesn't match up perfectly. Here we have a person with 9 duties and their pay rank 8, another person with 9 duties who is pay rank 7. So it doesn't all work out exactly perfect because, like I say, there's other considerations going on here, things like things like how long you've been with the company and do you show up for work when you're supposed to and stuff like that, right? So we can get this different ranking here. But looking at this data, it's very hard for me to see anything that I can make a connection with. I can't really look at this and go, oh, I understand what's going on here. So what we do is we create a scatter plot with a linear regression in it. I highly recommend that for the project, you show, when you're doing the visual, when you're doing the part about correlation and regression and all that, which, you should easily be able to blow through 4 or 5 minutes talking about regression, in a quality way. Show me the scatter plot with the regression line. I see, most students do that, but I see a large number of students just give me a scatter plot with no regression line, and I'm always left wondering, like, why didn't they put the regression line on there? And even if you think the regression line isn't good, show it to me and then give evidence for why it's not good, right? So here's how you do it. I've got my 2 columns. Obviously, they have to be the same rank because the same length because this data is correlated. So, one of these can't be longer than the other. But you go to stat, you go to regression, you go to simple linear, and then you choose your variables that you want. Oops, it's not letting me go down. So I'll choose, okay, I want my X variable to be number of duties. My Y variable is my pay rank. And then for you, make sure when you do this for the project that you are doing these labels. That's like it's so easy to do. Just come in here, label the name of things with their units, whatever units is important for that, and a good title. Whenever I see a scatter plot without that, it's kind of it's like you've put a spotlight on your mistake. It's so glaring. Just fill in the labels. It only takes a second. Also, remember, you can put a value for a prediction in here. Where is it? Where'd the prediction go? Oh, right here, prediction of Y. So if you have an X value and you want to know the expected Y value, you can put it in here, okay? I'm going to show you how to do it by hand. I'm also going to show you how to do it on here. So, and then here's also, you can see in here, you can do your hypothesis tests and your confidence intervals. We're not kind of worried about that right now. But I want to, let's see, did I do everything? I didn't do the labels, but you should when you do your project. Okay, I'm going to hit compute. It gives me this. Notice there's 2 pages. It says page 1 of 2. So up here, it's giving me my equation. This right here, that's my linear regression. That's my line of best fit, right? It says we take pay rank is equal to 1.16 plus 0.758 times the number of duties. So this is literally just y equals mx plus b that you used back in beginning algebra, right? Except instead of x and y, we're using the names of these variables instead of the letters x and y. Another thing you want to notice on this screen is the R value. That R value is getting up to where we're like, yeah, it seems like there's kind of a correlation there. It's not super strong, but it's not really non-existent either, okay? And then if we go over, if you see down here at the bottom, there's another arrow. If I click that, oh, there we get the graph I'm talking about, which you should have labeled a little better than I have here. But see how it shows? Oh, yeah, I can kind of see the data. We have this line going through it. That line looks like it's kind of doing the right thing. So there's 2 things you should talk about when you're talking about your regression. Show me the image and show me that the line is a good line. It looked like this, like it's believable that this is a good regression for this. You go, yeah, that looks good. If it's bad, show it to me and tell me why it's bad. There's a tendency for people to want to hide things they think are mistakes. I'm judging you on your learning, not the fact that you may or may not have made mistakes along the way. You all made mistakes along the way because you've never done this before, right? What I want you to do is show me what you learned along the way, and explaining to me that you made a mistake, but now you understand why that mistake is wrong is like the best example of learning we can have, okay? So you should by all means be using this picture in your project, your version of this picture properly labeled. And then using, and then also talk about the R value. When you say if that linear regression is a good fit or not, talk about this R value. What does the R value tell us? So you talk about both of those pieces of information about whether your model is good or not. Now, let's say that we wanted to make a prediction here, okay, because you're going to be asked to do this. So I'm going to show you 2 ways to do it. One, StatCrunch will do it for you. Well, that's nice. So let's go in here, regression, simple linear. So I'm just redoing what I did a minute ago. And I want that prediction value. I always forget where that one, there it is up here. So let's say we were asked, okay, we don't have any data. We don't have any data for someone with 10 duties. What do we think someone with 10 duties would get paid? Well, the answer to that question is that you take 10 and you plug it into that linear regression line that we just saw in the output, and whatever your Y value is, that's the pay rank that that person's going to get. So I put in, for my X value under prediction of Y, I'm going to put in 10 because I want to know what is the Y value when my X is 10. So I hit compute, and it tells me now I've got this predicted value down here. It says, well, you wanted to know about the predicted value of 10. The predicted y at that point is 8.73, which we would probably round to 9 because you can't have a pay rank of 8.7. You're either an 8 or a 9. So we go, okay, so it looks like the predicted value would be 9. Okay, and then that's your prediction, right? The other way we can do this is, I'm going to have to change screen, so I have to write this down so I don't have to keep switching back. What do we have? So y equals 1.16 plus 0.758x. Okay, so I'm rounding these numbers significantly just because I want to make sure I don't run out of time and I can talk about this and I can show you how to do it. But I basically just rounded these. When you're doing the actual quiz, don't round these very much. Just use the actual numbers, okay? But basically what this is telling me right here, in fact, let's copy paste this into our work area here. This is just a fancy way of saying y equals b plus mx, which is in statistics how they like to write y equals mx plus b, which is what you learned in beginning algebra, right? People haven't taken algebra for a long time. Remember y equals mx plus b. They maybe don't remember what it means, but they remember this, y equals mx plus b. Your y is your pay rank. Your b is this number here. Your m, that's your slope, is this one right here. And your x is the number of duties. So we're literally just turning it into those lines you did back in beginning algebra, okay? So if you're asked to make a prediction about a specific value, you're just going to plug it in here for x. So we would go, for our problem, it's y equals 1.6 plus 0.758x. So if we wanted to make a prediction about the value, what was it we said when x was 10? So it'd be y equals 1.6 plus 0.768 times 10. Okay, so all I did was take, you can see that I've rounded here. You shouldn't round if you can help it, but I'm just doing it for time. I just took this equation that StatCrunch gave me, and I've now plugged my value of 10 into it. And if we get that, we'll get the same thing that StatCrunch showed us in that window that we looked a minute ago where it did the prediction for us. But you need to make sure you understand how to do it both ways. In case you mess up one way, you can still do it the other way. Okay. One important thing to remember is this slope here, the coefficient that's on our independent variable, basically the 0.768, that's our slope here, right? Y equals b plus mx, m is your slope. That slope is your rate of change. It's telling you it's an estimate for the amount that you expect your pay rank to go up for each additional duty that you gain. Now, again, the duties that you have is only part of the calculation of your pay rank. So it's not like, that's why not everyone with 4 duties has the exact same pay rank. And everyone with 5 duties has the exact same pay rank because there's other stuff going on, seniority and stuff like that. But this slope is telling us that for each additional duty you're given at this job, you expect to go up about 0.768 in pay ranks. That's how many pay ranks you expect to go up. So if you remember back to beginning algebra, we were always telling you that slope was a rate of change. It's literally our rate of change here. It's the rate at which your pay rank changes in relation to your number of duties. Okay? So that's how you would want to interpret that. Okay? So you should be able to work your way through that quiz and get 100%. It is, if I can find it somewhere, it is, like I say, I highly encourage you, look this stuff over a little bit today, take it today. It says 3 points. It's going to be weighted. This will be worth, like I say, 30 to 40 points of your project. and your total project is already something like 160 or 70 points or something like that. So 40 points, 30 to 40 points is significant, right? That's like 15% or something. So that's like a grade and a half. So getting a good score on this quiz can be very, very helpful to your project. It's like the discussions that we've been having. The discussions are one of the easier ways to gain points for your project, as long as you did them on time. This quiz is also take your time and be careful. Oops, it's not on screen anymore. Take your time and be careful. It's down almost at the very bottom of the Canvas page. It's down there. Make sure you get that quiz taken care of. Okay, I have to report the results back for the accreditation. So make sure that you take this. Make sure you take your time. It's going to help the school. It also helps your grade for your project as another of the easier ways to earn points. So please make sure you take care of that and that you can do it correctly. If you have any questions about any of that, come talk to me in office hours, and I can't help you with the quiz itself, but if you come to me with a question about means, medians, regressions, anything like that, I can talk to you about that, separate from the quiz, obviously. So be aware of that, and then we're basically out of time. So make sure you do that. I will see you on Thursday. We will talk more about the project on Thursday. Feel free to bring questions. Bring me questions, and I'll talk about questions that you have. I'll answer your questions for you about the project. Otherwise, I'll just talk about the project and what you need to be doing to get ready, and what some students do and different stuff like that. But bringing questions is a great idea. So with that, I'm going to shut down the YouTube stream, but we have office hours today, so Zoom will remain open. Anyone who wants to come talk to me in Zoom, please do so. If you're considering I was going to ask him this question about my project, but maybe I should wait, don't wait. The next week and a half is going to be gone in like a snap of a finger. So, or a snap of a finger. So, don't procrastinate, right? That's a problem. So, thanks everybody. Come talk to me in Zoom if you want to, and I'll see you on Thursday.